Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Helen and today I'm going to be sharing my TBR for May with you. So in May, like as in April, we're probably still going to be in lockdown in the UK. Therefore, I have chosen 10 books on top of my Believathon TBR which I want to read. I will be linking my Believathon TBR for anyone who has not seen it yet. It's a separate video to this. A lot of the books I've chosen are quite big. I think most of them are over 500 pages, and I think that's because at the moment I'm kind of just craving the long-term immersion in a world an absolutely massive book gives you. In fact, I think the first 3 books on my TBR are actually all set in the same world. Also, for this TBR, I've brought back the element of randomness with 2 of my books, and I've asked my dad to choose 2 of them. He will be coming in to talk about his choices. I know what they are now, a bit later in the video. But to start off with, I'm going to talk about the 8 books I've chosen so far. As I said, the first 3 books in this TBR are all in the same world, and that world is the world of Brandon Sanden's Cosmere. I'm very behind with the Cosmere along. I was planning to join in, and then it got to the end of March and I still hadn't read Elantris, and I still haven't read it now. So I am planning in March to read Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. This is, I believe, about a city that was once great and prosperous, however now is sort of dead, and if you go there you are essentially dead. While you continue living, any harm that is inflicted upon you remains upon you. That is all I know about this book. I think it follows a prince who wakes up one morning and finds that he has been picked to go to this city. But yeah, I'm very excited to read this and delve into the world of the Cosmere. I'm also really excited because I've heard such amazing things about it from, well, about all of Brandon Sanderson's writing, from people like Cody, from Cody's Book Corner. I know a lot of people really love his writing, so I cannot wait to read this. Then we have 2 of the short stories from Arcanum Unbounded. I am planning to read The Emperor's Soul and The Hope of Elantris, which are the 2 short stories which go with Elantris. I am not going to be reading any to go with the other Brandon Sanderson I'm reading, which is, of course, The Final Empire. This is, I think, a retelling of every single sort of high fantasy story if the Dark Lord won, and it's set hundreds of years after the Dark Lord wins the final battle. I think this has a system of magic based around metal, and I don't know why, but I feel like it involves a heist or a thief or something along those lines. This is the one I've seen most people talk about, and I've heard really good things about it, so I'm really looking forward to reading it. I have no idea what to expect going into this. I'm hoping I'll enjoy it enough to read the 2nd book in the Mistborn trilogy and the 3rd, at which point I will be up to date with the Cosmere along and able to watch the live shows. For now, I'm just gonna try and catch up, and these are the first 3 books in the road to catching up. The next book on my TBR is another book I'm really excited for. It's also another Brick, and that is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. This is an adult contemporary based around a group of friends who, following college, stay friends, but their lives all take different paths, and we follow the different paths, specifically the path of one named Jude, who I believe is haunted by his past. I don't know much more than this. I've seen on Wikipedia a few of the things it deals with. I did not read the synopsis, but I'm very excited to read this. I kind of love adult contemporaries. I find them incredibly fascinating to read, and the world of adult contemporary seems so far away from my world right now. I really enjoy discovering it. This book came to my attention ages ago, but recently I saw Brit from Basically Brit read it in her 24-hour readathon, and then later in a vlog, and I saw her reaction to the end, and now I'm really excited to read it and discover what about this book creates such strong emotions, and discover these characters that everyone seems to have such intense emotional attachments to. Okay, we're gonna follow that up with something slightly lighter. The next book on my TBR is A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro. This is a retelling, I guess, of Sherlock Holmes mysteries. It's about Charlotte, who is Sherlock Holmes's great-great-great-granddaughter, who has inherited his sort of volatile temperament, but also his mystery-solving skills. And it also follows Jamie Watson, who is, of course, John Watson's great-great-great-grandson, and the friendships that these 2 strike up. I've seen so many people love this. and I cannot wait to read it and discover these characters. I think it's going to be a really sweet, fast read, and I am in the mood for mystery novels after reading Vanishing Stare, so I can't wait to read A Study in Charlotte. And then going in with some more heavier hitting stuff, the next book on my TBR is the Iliad by Homer. Despite going to study ancient and medieval history next year, I've never actually read the Iliad or the Odyssey. The only like great epic of the Greek and Roman era I've read is the Aeneid, so I've decided to pick it up. I'm hoping to kind of read one great epic from various ancient civilizations each month. So I'll read the Iliad this month, the Odyssey next month, the Aeneid, the Epic of Gilgamesh, etc. Until I've finally read all of them. However, we're starting with this one. The Iliad follows a short period of time during the Trojan War, which was a war between Troy and the Greeks. And the war begins because, of course, Paris and Helen run off together. Helen is the wife of Menelaus, and Menelaus does not take this slight well. Fortunately for Menelaus, when Helen was originally married off to him, he made everyone at the sort of competition to marry her promise that if she was ever slighted or her husband was ever slighted, they'd all come together, band together and fight the person who slighted them. This is not good for the people of Troy and Paris. The period that the Iliad focuses on is the period where Menelaus chooses Chryseis as his slave. However, Chryseis' father is a priest of Apollo and comes and takes Chryseis back. And when Menelaus says no, Apollo plagues them. Menelaus eventually sends Chryseis back and instead in anger takes Achilles' slave, Briseis. Achilles does not respond well to this and essentially goes into a sulk, and then other things happen. I'm not going to spoil the ending of it. This is in prose. I have no idea which translation this is. This is the translation. Much as I'd love to be able to read it in the original ancient Greek, I don't think my 2-week-long Greek course 3 years ago would help me with that. So I'm going to be reading a translation of it. I'm just really excited. I love Greek myths. I love like oral mythology that's then been written down. I have read multiple retellings of the Iliad, most recently 1,000 Ships, which I absolutely loved. I guess that's also a retelling of the Odyssey, but I am so excited to read it. We then have the book I'm probably the most nervous about on this TBR, and that is Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. Please don't ask why I put an 800-page book on this TBR, which is already huge. This is the first book in the Crescent City trilogy, which is a new trilogy by Sarah J. Maas. It's urban fantasy, which I normally love, and I think it's a murder mystery, which I'm also very excited for. The reason I'm nervous about this book is because while I love Sarah J. Maas's writing and her worlds, I do not love her main characters. In fact, I just really don't like them. I find them really difficult to connect to for some reason. I don't know why. And I just kind of get bored by being inside their heads. I prefer it when, like in the final book of the Throne of Glass series, it kind of expanded and we got multiple perspectives, but I never like her main characters and I never like her main characters' love interests. So I'm not sure how to feel about this. I'm hoping I will like it slightly more given the synopsises I've seen. Also, Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction. I really trust her book recommendations after reading 1,000 Ships, which is one of my favourite books of this year. She really loved Crescent City, so I'm hoping I will really love it. I really can't wait to read this in a way. There is something really comforting about Sarah J. Maas's writing. I think it's because I read a lot of her books the summer after GCSEs, so whenever I read her books I'm kind of brought back to that warm, contented, you finished your exams feeling. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading Crescent City, even if I am a little bit nervous about it. Then my final book, before the 2 books that my dad has chosen, is The Rise and Fall of Classical Greece by Joshua Ober. This is essentially about the rise and fall of classical Greece. I don't know that much else about it. I've never read anything by Joshua Ober. I think I bought this because my history teacher at school recommended it to me when I said I was looking for books about ancient history, and he recommended this one to me, so I haven't read it yet. Gonna read it this month. I'm going to now go and get my dad to talk about the books that he's chosen for me to read. I will be back shortly. Okay, so I'm now here with my father, who's going to talk about the 2 books he's got.
This one, which is Laurie Lee's Cider with Rosie, I did for O-level English, which shows how old I am. It's absolutely delightful. It's the story of a poet's childhood in the Cotswolds before the Second World War. It's like a poetry in prose, and it's something everybody should read.
Right.
And the other is Ghostwritten by David Mitchell, which is his first book, which appears to be a set of short stories, but which is actually a novel because all the short stories tie together in a really, really clever and sort of circular fashion. And characters from each short story appear in the next short story.
And that was my dad's very short bit in this. I will link his Twitter down below if anyone wants to go follow him. Anyway, I'm going to now hold up the entire stack, which is quite big. I'm now quite intimidated by the number of books I've chosen. So here we go. Here's this month's TBR. I don't know why I've chosen so many huge books. The more and more I look at this, the worse an idea it seems. But anyway, yeah, I know if out of all of these, if I don't get to one, I think it'll be the Arcanum Unbounded. I'd quite like to get to all the rest of them. I'm going to put this down now because it's falling over. Okay, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them, if you loved them, if you hated them, if you're somewhere in the middle. And I really hope to see you in my next video. All my social media will be linked down below, as will my dad's Twitter account if you want to go follow him. I will see you soon. Bye!